One thing that my district continues to face is the need to pull electricity generated here in Pennsylvania out of Pennsylvania to power Maryland, a state that continues to shut down baseload generation while at the same time continues to cite power-hungry data centers. Meanwhile, my farmers have a huge target on their backs from outside groups that want to site a pumped storage facility along the Susquehanna River, as well as a large number of high voltage power transmission lines to wire this new battery, so to speak, into the grid. Those transmission lines, if I understand correctly from your testimony, are going to be paid for by Pennsylvania ratepayers because of Maryland's negligence, failed policies to do the right thing. I find it just, I can't find the right words, but it is completely wrong that the hardworking citizens in Pennsylvania have to pay for the infrastructure for another state because they don't do what they need to do for their own citizens. So, as you all know, I have legislation that would, among other things, require default service providers to break out the costs on a utility bill. So can you explain how these projects, like transmission lines that pull power out of Pennsylvania to power Maryland, factor into a Pennsylvania ratepayer's utility bill?
I think for a detailed answer, we'd have to get back to you, but I would say that there are some transmission type of charges that do end up in the price to compare. So I do think if Maryland has a different type of mechanism, they could be compensated for there. So I do think it's an important thing to consider, moving forward.
So based on your testimony that was provided here today, and I think maybe it was Ms. McDevitt, that infrastructure and the cost to transport energy generated in Pennsylvania to Maryland, who's doing all the wrong things, is borne by our ratepayers. Is that correct?
I think it depends on the project, but in some cases the answer is clearly yes. And I mean, I would remind us that we're part of a regional transmission organization that serves beyond our state borders. So, PJM is part of 13 states and District
I
of
completely
Columbia.
understand that, but I just find it absolutely reprehensible that a state that closes baseload generation, continues to cite high demand facilities, won't do the right thing to generate their own power. We are paying for the infrastructure to transmit power that they need because they don't generate it themselves. And then on top of that, we have to pay to send it down there. Our ratepayers have to pay to send it down there. Where does that show up on my ratepayers' bills?
I believe in the transmission charge, but we will double check that.
Okay. I would really appreciate you getting back to us because we are at an inflection point in what I believe is going to become, if not already, a crisis. And that would be very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.